for a quick tour. There's little hanging baskets for the crack framed cottage in progress. Just need some blue flowers on there. This is part of the winch mechanism. Needs a bit of gunmetal in Humbrol enamel to go onto that next. That's half of it. The other half is over here somewhere. Super gluing and waiting for the next layer of paint. When you're working with pieces that are as delicate as that, the paint actually holds it together. Actually using the adhesive quality of the paint. Buckets are there. Not quite right yet. That one's broken and still needs a bottom. And I've bought some of this, which is an ultraviolet resin, which you just drip in and then leave in the sun, or an ultraviolet lamp if you've got one, but I haven't. And that gives a good sort of water effect. So one or two, or maybe all of those buckets, and this one's more of a sort of bathtub really, are going to have water in them. And something that's been bothering me a lot, I keep looking at the tower and I've decided that I'm just not happy with it. It's not good enough. It still looks like a rolled up tube of smoothish stuff, and given the kind of texture and quality that I've got the rest of it, decided it's just not happy. So got some different ideas. The first one is going to be to cut out bricks. So this is a block cut out, and then a piece of the flexible foam. That's called the EVA foam, isn't it? A little bit larger than the block. That is then glued up with the contact adhesive. It's pushed inside the hole, having been cut to slightly larger than the hole, with the cocktail stick in the centre of it. It's then pulled back with a lot of hope and prayer that it will stick to the inside. That's left 15 minutes to dry. Then a piece of cardboard about the same size and shape is stuck in, just to give it a little bit more height. The cutout piece is retained and kept the right way up and smoothed off slightly, and the edges are painted so they're not just black. And then in a moment that is going to be stuck into that hole, so that it's now just very slightly proud of its original position. And I'm hoping if I do enough of those on the top 2/3 of the tower and the bottom 2/3 of the tower, if it doesn't drive me insane, I'm hoping that will start to make it look more satisfying to my currently frustrated and underwhelmed aesthetic. This is working, and you can see that one has been stuck out by a piece of thin serial card, and you can see that one, but it's a little bit too much. So I've gone back to just padding them out by no more than the thickness of a sheet of paper, and that's more subtle. You don't see those straight away, but you do see them when you look. Well, perhaps that's what I want really. Perhaps what I'm trying to say is I don't want people to see them. But I don't want people to notice that it's continually smooth. It's a case of going for that subtlety, and as well, there will have to be a bit of touching up done on the paintwork, because this top surface will be a little bit lighter. The underside will be a little bit darker. The sides won't be as dark as they are there. And it's just a case of, so as not to get them muddled up. This is a case of doing 6 at a time, and maybe I'll do 6 every morning and 6 every evening for a lot of days, and eventually it will start to either drive me off the edge or look good. I'm kind of pleased with the way it's working, but it's just one line of it at the moment, and I've got to do all the way around, and it's probably done less than 5% of what it's going to need. I've been dry brushing because I've decided that the sticky out bits of brickwork are good enough now. Certainly a lot better than it was before. I quite like the effect. It's taken several days, believe it or not, to do that. And I may later on do some more, but for the moment it's done, and I've touched up the black edges and then dry brushed over the top. I did get another problem. This is the sitting on the windowsill. That's the ultraviolet resin that makes water. But of course, what I forgot is that the whole thing is on a slope. So when I put that where it's going to go, which is probably going to be somewhere like that, the level of the water is going to be not quite right. So I need to top that up, and hopefully it won't overflow. And the other two little ones of those actually had tiny holes, so they've been plugged and haven't had any resin in yet. Medium sized one is the one that's going to hang from the winch, and that's the next job. I've painted up all the parts of the winch. I've now got to assemble it. I can't remember if I showed you this. This is some new string. That is 1mm string. I just gave up in the end on the waxed, in inverted commas, string. This is better. Spent some time hunting on eBay. This is the start of a little cape. It's just a piece of thinnish paper with a bit of cotton glued in under the collar. I think I'm going to construct a sort of extra collar, and it's an experiment really. It will hang on there if it works. Horribly busy all of a sudden with furniture and all sorts of domestic life things, and writing for a Call of Cthulhu game that I'm running in 2 days' time. I've got one tomorrow as well, actually, to do some more prep for, and some photography stuff that I've got myself into. But I have still found a little bit of time today to start dry brushing the tower, or rather the roof of the tower. I wanted to get that effect of sort of lichen. So that has been sprayed with a very light grey, and then a fairly light grey, a very light, very light green, almost a white with just a touch of green, slightly darker shade of that, just to get that grey-green lichen look, and then some very light grey, and the fourth coat was this almost yellow-orange, which you get. I'm worrying that I've overdone it, but even as I talk, looking at the image that you're seeing, that I'm seeing on my screen, it doesn't look as overdone as it looks in life. Perhaps because it's just got started to get dark, and I'll just put the lights on. I'm going to start doing the walls now. The idea will be to do something similar without the yellow splotches, and to do it more lightly than I've done on the roof, so less layers, and then it will be a job of trying to work on that on the floor and on this at the same time, so I don't get too uneven a transition, just shielding while I spray with a piece of buff envelope. These things don't go so well. I've been working on the tower with dry brushing and some little bits of sort of weed going in. Just need a touch more paint. With little bits of sort of moss and algae on any of the vertical surfaces. Like the way those are coming along. Need to do a bit more on the top. I either have the whole thing up on the sculpture stand where parts of it are too high for me, or down on a bin and parts of it are hard to get at. The other thing that took a lot of time yesterday was the winch, which is finally all glued, and that's taken an inordinate amount of time. There's so many bits, and I made an unnecessary hook at one time because I forgot how it all works. It's got to be just weighted a little bit more so it hangs more vertically. I'm very, very keen that it should actually swing freely, because the thing that you notice about dolls' houses is curtains always look wrong because the fabric is too stiff and they just don't hang over their own weight. But then today I've been working on the rubbish tip, a midden in medieval terms, and some pieces of foam were glued on yesterday, then they were painted black, and then all these bits I've been collecting all the time I've been doing the work. Whenever I've had any tiny little bits just swept up from the work surface, I've been piling them up in there. But I thought that the main thing that would be on that heap, of course, would be ash from the fireplaces. And I thought, what would do better to simulate ash than to make some real ash? So I thought I'll burn some paper or some paper towels in an old tin can, outside of course. I haven't got any matches at the studio, and the wretched electric stove here will not get hot enough to catch anything to ignite, even when I use bits of paint thinners and other glues that are marked inflammable. Absolutely, I couldn't make a flame. Quite ridiculous. I've failed as in my man test to see if I can be the prehistoric man and create fire today. It did smoulder, but I can't make any more ash by doing that. These are just the pieces of paper that I tried to light. I'm going to have to wait till I can get hold of some matches or a lighter, or even a small ball of paper on the ring, turned up to maximum. Even that just smouldered away, and despite the extractor hood being on, the smoke detector went off, and the smoke detector made one peep, and then it blew the electrics, which it's not supposed to do. So now it's drop everything and sort out that so I don't burn down the studio in the middle of the night. The rubbish tip is coming on. Just had some coloured wash. It still needs the sort of ash to go over the surface. It needs a bit of a spray with the matte varnish. I should say that the more I've done the project, the less I've used Mod Podge. I'm really not a fan. It's right for hardening surfaces, but it's too thick and plasticky for most of the detailed work I want to do. So that gets sprayed instead with the matte varnish, which is lovely stuff. It holds stuff together, and just the varnish it's invisible. You'll notice it's there. And here are some bits to go on on the rubbish tip. That's probably the smallest thing I've ever sculpted. It looks like a fossil, but hopefully I'll manage to blend the background into the rubbish tip somehow and paint it. The idea is of it to look like it really does look prehistoric, but it's meant to be a fish. And then that, which I've been struggling to make, that will be broken up to make pot shards. Trouble with green stuff, which is an epoxy clay, is it, even when it's hard, it's not brittle. It's like a sort of medium hardness plastic. So I'm not quite sure if that's going to work, if that's going to break into pot shards. And that is going to be nipped off there. Can you guess what that is? And I'm hoping that's going to, when I've painted it, I'm hoping that will look like an apple core. I might make some other bits. I think we'll need one or two other bones. I need to look at pictures of sort of I don't know, cow bones and things, and have one or two discarded meat bones on the rubbish tip. I finally managed to pass my credentials as a caveman and make fire to make some ash. So those little bits that I've been collecting up in the course of the whole project, and ash and sand and sweepings and everything have gone into that. The white patches are just where I've chopped up the pile, partly to sort of meld in the weird skeleton of something or other that was supposed to be a fish. See the little apple core in there, and the bits of ceramic potsherd. There's a little bit of paint on these green bits, and these bits that still look like cocktail sticks need knocking back or snapping off. Those hairs need to be pulled off or snipped. And the other thing I've been doing with the filler, which is the Wix lightweight filler and PVA, almost the last scrapings from the pot, it's just to make I wasn't happy with the slope of the heap. It looked too much. It needed to spread more. But I'm pleased with the way that's coming on. It's been fun. I'm dirtying up this morning, which is just a case of using these. This is a technique from Marklin of Sweden, his YouTube videos that I've mentioned before. These came in the post, damaged. It's Mars Staedtler, or Staedtler Mars hard pastels, and I haven't needed to start breaking them up because they came pretty battered in the post. So this is just water, and those pastels get a bit mucky now, but I just started by dabbing water on, and then dabbing on the pastel to dirty it. And then you can, like we're working with oil paints, you can shift it around. I've got way too much there at the moment, not enough here, and none around the corner yet, so I don't really need any more pigment. I can take from there where there's too much, and I can apply some of that dirt around here, and as I go I'll start to be more selective. There's bits of chalky white there, and still working on the corners of the rubbish tip, which don't look quite right yet. Needs a little bit of brown in there, but that's almost finished. I'm working on that at the same time, and this bit is fun. It's quite therapeutic. It's you have to think about what you're doing, but it's not quite the same as, it's a different kind of thinking to sort of the actual thinking that you need to make when you're constructing. I think we might sort of exaggerate the shadow in there a little bit, which is one of the things you do when you're painting 25mm models. You think about zenithal highlighting, which is a very very grand name for what is actually a very simple thing. You think that's a shady, dark area. Might even put some little hints of green in there. And I know I want to have something I haven't constructed yet. Is I want to have some kind of vine or something growing up the building there. That's going to be one of the very last stages. And I've been touching up these little bits of green growth on the tower, just here and there. Quite pleased with the way those are looking.